wait, step it aside when we come in. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the streets that panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme, I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. Risk something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich and a fan.
All right, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. Reginald from Demcad will be joining us in just a second. He'll be joining us for the hour. I'm going to announce that right now because if you have questions for Reginald, he covers a very, very broad range of subjects. Right now in the chat room, he's talking about the hotness factor of Canadian women. So I think it might be a very interesting show. 877-342-6673. We'll take calls for the entire hour. The first thing I wanted to do is a couple things. Number one, if you want to follow the program and you're wondering who the guest is going to be for the night, I try to announce it. I usually try to plan out 2 or 3 days ahead of time. Sometimes I just don't know, especially right now. This time next week, actually, this time Monday, I'll be in my new location and there'll be less ambiguity on this show. Period. I'll be able to line up guests further in advance. And prepare better for the broadcast. Thank you to everybody who's sticking with me through this move I'm doing because it's chaotic at best. However, Bonnie does an outstanding job of maintaining the website. She is the webmaster for wideawakenews.com, but she also goes ahead on Facebook and posts not only my videos, but videos of guests who come on, and also she posts who is going to be the guest for that day. And true to her form, she will. If she does not hear from me by noon, she'll start calling me to ask me who to put up there. And tonight, I had nobody. I hadn't even thought about it until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And thankfully, Reginald agreed to come on and co-host with me tonight, and I greatly appreciate that. And we'll bring him on in just a second. But now that we're a minute into the show, I wanted to give everybody a chance to tune in. Especially Walter's wife and Walter's friend's wife. These are longtime followers of this program since the very beginning, and they did something absolutely extraordinary. They sent Bonnie a silver coin for all of her hard work, and I just want to tell Bonnie told me about that today, and it was really a very, very sweet gesture. They did this to the hardest working unsung hero of Wide Awake News and Wide Awake Radio, and that is Bonnie, because she puts hours and hours a day into this and gets very little recognition. So I greatly appreciate Walter's friend and Walter's friend's wife for taking the time to send her a little memento, because without her, none of this would happen. Literally, there's days where I do nothing except to turn on my computer and jump in front of this microphone. But everything else that I'm going to talk about or that has to do with the guest, it was done by her. So I really, really appreciate some of the audience members taking the time to thank her. And I know you guys do a lot in the chat room, but it was a very, very nice gesture. Okay, and I also know, checking into the chat room, speaking of the chat room, if you'd like to join in, there's 109 people in there right now. If you're listening, you can go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and it'll take you right into the chat room. But I was monitoring the chat room a little bit before the show, as I usually do when I'm getting ready, and some people in there are being inundated with the propaganda. I mean, one of the longtime listeners, also Miss Sea Gypsy, apparently you're having an issue right now with a friend who is out of their mind. They think that everything's okay, and I would just want to say that don't be discouraged by this, and I think Reginald's going to touch on this as well, because his last video he mentioned it. We're just coming off of the best holiday season. Now let me say this slow again. The best holiday season ever in the history of this country, ever. 2007 was a record at about $450 billion. This one was over $460 billion. The propaganda effort, the herd mentality was manipulated to the point that everybody dusted off their credit cards that they put away in 2009. in 2008, and they went ballistic this holiday season. They didn't do this because the economy is getting better. I could sit here and fill 2 hours. I could fill 5 hours of program showing statistics that point to exactly the opposite of that. I could try to lift the veil of propaganda that surrounds this country and show you what's happening in other parts of the world. Folks, people around the world, people that are not that you don't hear about because they don't make the mainstream media. You're not constantly being bombarded with reality. You're being bombarded with fictitious fantasy. But there's people around this world who are suffering beyond imagination. And there is people around the world right now who are losing their minds because they have no hope, they have no prospect, they have no future. It has been co-opted, their liberty's been co-opted, their sovereignty's been co-opted. They're in a place where we are headed. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever in my mind we are heading on the same path. We have one thing going for us that is going to delay it happening to the United States of America, and that is the fact that we hold the world reserve currency, and it is the petrodollar. This will not last. It cannot last. It will fail. I trust in the people like Peter Schiff, Gerald Celente, who've been predicting this for years now, and sites like Zero Hedge that masterfully point out the corruption and point out the truth to us. You know, this isn't a matter of if. Your friends who are living in some kind of spending binge euphoria, well, they should enjoy their time. And if that's how they have to get by, if that's how they cope day to day, and then there's no reason to lose any sleep over this. There's no reason to worry yourself sick because some people refuse to step into reality. If they want to live in this fantasy, they will be hit harder than the guy who's not prepared. That's a fact. You know, we've been saying on this program and on the YouTube channel, the very first thing, the very first step to being awake is to realize and mentally prepare for the collapse of the current system that we have. I don't know if we're going to Mad Max. I don't know if we're going to be like a collapse like the former Soviet Union. I don't know if the former KGB agent who said we were going to break up into 6 districts is right. I don't know if China's going to invade our country. I do know this, and I can guarantee you this. I can guarantee you that our current financial system has been imploded. Our current financial system cannot continue the path that it's on now. There is a change coming. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that is accurate. And the fact is, this change is not going to be a soft shift into a higher gear. It's going to be a clutch-grinding, miserable, sad time in this country. And those who have taken the time to prepare for it, those who have taken the time to mentally prepare for it, are going to be served a lot better. There's reasons why, in the past week, the top insider sales at the S&P 500 sold $163 million worth, and in turn, they went ahead and bought zero. They sold $163 million, they bought zero. It's never happened before. There's a reason why you don't hear stories like Reginald brought in his latest video. That Detroit is cutting 50% of their schools, increasing their class size to over 60. Austerity is here, and the only place you're hearing it is alternative media, and that's why you see this rapid assault on alternative media. The latest example is blaming all of us, blaming everybody who has anything negative to say about our current trajectory, the government, Wall Street, anybody who talks out to the powers that be are to be considered potential terrorists. And I mean, this is not something that is by accident. This isn't something that's going to go away either. This is something that has been thought out and planned, and this is the next step. You will see an uptick in the attacks on programs like this, channels like Reginald's, alternative media in general. So don't be discouraged. And that's one reason, Reginald, I'm going to bring you on now. Reginald, this is one reason I love your videos is because I go on there, I put out a video, it's 3 to 6 minutes long, and I never have the happy ending that you always seem to have, and I mean that in a totally clean way.
That's just me thinking like that, but I'm sure everybody else has a cleaner mind than I do. But go ahead.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I do know that you get your fair share, even your videos, and like I said, your videos You have a very unique gift in presenting the data with an upbeat way. So I greatly appreciate your videos, and I think that's why they really never get old. You're as strong now as the day you started making these videos. In fact, as I click on over to your account, I see you just passed the 14,000 subscriber mark. Congratulations on that. And you just passed the 3 million mark of total videos viewed, and over 1 million people have stopped by your channel. So you're doing great work, and like I said, I don't think this is necessarily a time to be discouraged, even if you feel like you're walking upstream. The fact of the matter is, we need people like you, Reginald, in this community to reassure us that we're not, crazy, that there's other people out there that are like-minded and feel the same way. So I congratulate you and commend you on your success on YouTube, and I welcome you to Wide Awake Radio once again.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing good.
The stories I brought forward today were pretty extreme. They sound crazy. In Camden, New Jersey, which is the second most dangerous city in the country, I think my hometown of Flint, Michigan is going to be number one. They're going to lay off 335 workers. They're going to lay off half of their police department. Almost half of their police department, a third of their fire department. It sounds really extreme, but it's happening all over the country. Right here in Flint, we're going to eliminate 2 fire stations. We're trying to save $500,000 here. In Detroit, they're going to shut down. They're proposing to shut down half of the schools. Now, this to give you an idea of how extreme this is. They're going to almost double the size of every single classroom. I'm talking all the way up to 62 kids in a classroom, which sounds ridiculous, but this is an actual story. I have the links and everything, and it sounds extreme, but this is what's actually happening. And it's really important because when you look at these local governments and you look at the situation across the country, you have to realize that this is very much tied to the municipal bond market. And I think this is going to be one of the things that really leads to the collapse. I think it's going to be led by the small the local governments, and that's going to have sort of a domino effect. It's going to affect the states, and they're going to start to default. And then it's going to lead to the entire federal government in a situation where either the currency has to be extremely devaluated or it's going to be facing some type of serious default. So I think it's going to begin with the local government because there's going to be some type of decision, a bailout or something, because something's going to have to give.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And Bernanke, in a recent interview, I did a video about it, and the story was linked to that video. He came out and outright said that they're not going to dabble in buying municipal bonds. They don't feel that that's their mandate to bail out these states. So, even though the Dow Jones is sitting at near 12,000 again, and Wall Street and these guys receiving bonuses out there are second only to last year's bonuses in the history of Wall Street. And the mainstream, especially the mainstream business media, projects a image of health and prosperity. And it's just, guys, just wait a little bit longer. It's going to trickle down to Main Street. But what's trickling down, Reginald, is something we've been talking about for a long time, and that's austerity. And that's exactly what you're describing. A lot of people think that, and you know what, this will be spun eventually in the mainstream media, that this is good for the country. We need to cut some of the dead weight. But you're talking a classroom size going from 30 to 60, and in an area that has what kind of unemployment in Detroit? I mean, was it 25%?
Well, at least 25%. That's the official number. Number.
So this austerity.
At the high school level, they're going to go from 35 kids in a class to 60 kids in a class by 2012, 2013, and 2014 they're going to have it at 62. Which at that point, you're not even really dealing with a school. It's not even education at that point. I mean, why call it a school? Why not call it a farm at that point? It's just ridiculous.
Well, call it Juvie Hall, because that's what it's, there's going to be no learning going on. It's just going to be a matter of controlled chaos in those classrooms, and disadvantaging these urban areas even further, but it isn't going to stop in the urban areas. I mean, California is proposing billions and billions of dollars in cuts, and I realize they need to do this. But the idea that the shortfall for the entire country in the municipalities is upwards of $140 billion for the year 2011, to think that, we gave one company like Citigroup, we gave them far more than that during the bailouts and untold billions and maybe even trillions in emergency guaranteed loans and then taking all their failed assets and putting them on the backs of the American taxpayer vis-a-vis the Federal Reserve purchase programs. It's what it's going to end up being, Reginald, in my opinion. It's going to be turn neighbor against neighbor, citizen against citizen, blame each other for the condition we're in. And they made it all sound like this is the path to save the economic world back in 2008. If we just start bailing out these companies because they're too big to fail, then they put on this fake mantle of prosperity in the last 6 months. They've been pushing it hard because they know what's coming. They know that the pay for the sin of these Wall Street shysters, these banksters. I wanted to say that so I could start an alien race in the chat room. The sin of these banksters is paid for, so it's time to pay for it. Are you in the mood to take a caller?
Sure, definitely.
All right. Well, we've had Stephen holding for a few minutes. I don't have where you're from, Stephen, so welcome to the show.
Hello, Charlie. Hold on, I got to turn off my speakerphone. Hey, I appreciate you because you're there, right? You're hearing me.
Yep, I got you, loud and clear.
Okay. Hey, the reason I appreciate you a lot is because you kind of are more layman's terms, and there's a lot of people talking about, the chemtrails and all this kind of stuff, and it's just better because you wake people up in the people up in a way, and then if they want to go look into all that stuff later, they can. But you're a good person for that, and I really appreciate you. So I'm going to get to my point now. I have a kind of neat, interesting subject for you. And what I did is I kind of looked at my own state. I do study, other stuff, but I kind of look at my own state sometimes. And what I have, Charlie, is the thing that you talk about a lot. I have, there's two sets of books. One set of books says 1 + 1 = 2. And then another set of books is 1 + 1 = whatever they say it's going to be. And I'm going to read you something that I wrote, Oregon Department. It's really quick, and I'll let you go. I'll make this very short. But I read it, and I said, do you think the numbers from I wrote the labor person, or the Department of Economy. Do you think the numbers from labor force data on the top right-hand corner of the report are numbers that are somewhat made up through theories, such as difference between adjusted and unadjusted, while the numbers of the initial claims is more of a straightforward 2 + 2 = 4 information? I ask this because maybe at one time the theories were well thought out, but times change and those theories might not keep up with the time. Thanks for your time, blah, blah, blah. Now, let me read her response, and it's only 20 seconds, and I'll hang up.
Sure,
now you're interested in UI claims data. In regards to your question, my answer would be the labor force data, parentheses, which is compiled by our staff in the Workforce and Economic Research Division, now check this, is more like a Gallup poll. There is a clearly defined metric by which the data is compiled, and it's good for comparison on a national level as the BLS determines the methodology, but it's not a direct reflection of either actual unemployment insurance data or of the exact number of people working in the state. However, since the data measures figures which we wouldn't be able to otherwise count, like the number of people who are unemployed, not claiming benefits, or number of people working in both employment, and et cetera, it's the best we can do to get an idea of the labor force in the state. And I'm done now. So in answer to your question, it depends. Again, always feel free to contact me. So basically what I got is like a Gallup poll, and it depends.
Yeah,
I wanted to share that with you. You thought that was interesting, or am I crazy?
No, that's very interesting, but it's not surprising because, and I'll let Reginald comment on it. Thank you very much for the call, Stephen. I appreciate your kind words.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for all you do. All right, bye.
You bet. Thank you. No, it's not a surprise to me. I mean, I'm looking at last week's weekly unemployment report. 445,000 people reported, 700 and let me look at the unadjusted. 770,000 actual bodies showed up. And that isn't all. I mean, that's just one report. You know, we see no jobs created last month, and the unemployment rate, 100,000 jobs over the month allegedly created, takes 150,000 just to bust even, just to keep the number where it's at, and the number goes from 9.8 to 9.4, one of the largest drops in the last several years. Now, the metric they use is they go ahead and shrink the number of people who are eligible to be considered in the workforce. The static number has been 66% of the people who could go to work in this country do, and they've been consistently lowering that number month over month, year over year, in order so they can show a better unemployment report. The idea that we're creating a situation where our unemployment rate can fall from 9.8 to 9.4 is an absolute and utter joke. And I would truly love to debate the person at the Labor Department who puts this out and considers that it is solid information. And keep in mind, when this information comes out, when this data hits the news on Thursday morning, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars at stake. This goes a long way in affecting the continuing Ponzi scheme. It's like when Ben Bernanke, this person who's not elected, who's appointed, just like the czar of the world at this point, when he comes out and says something, markets move. When markets move, people win. Usually the very few elite on Wall Street win, and people lose. And those are usually the people who are novice investors, or they're dumping money into a pension fund. And you'll get an argument right now, like Miss Sea Gypsy's getting, that the stock market's up and things are looking better. And sure, maybe you open your 401k and it looks like some of your returns coming. But I'm telling you something. Try to take your money out of there. Try to take your money out of there, and if you're lucky, if you're in a position like I am, that you're vested in it, you can take half out for emergency reasons. Then you're going to pay a massive penalty, and you can't even touch the other half. And the day is coming. This market will capitulate at some point, and I will be looking at statements that make 2008 look like a winner. Reginald, I didn't anticipate the break right here, so on the backside of this, I want to get your thoughts on statistics and the reports that come out. We're going to be right back with Demcad, also known as Reginald, from YouTube, right after this on Wide Awake Radio. Reginald, you have some friends in the chat room. Everybody loves Reginald. Welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I am Charlie McGrath, the host. We have 108 people in the chat room. If you'd like to join them, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio link, and it'll take you right into the chat room. Reginald, Demcad from YouTube. Stephen was the caller a minute ago asking about, he wrote a letter to their Labor Department there in Oregon, I think he said, and he got back, a bowl of mush, basically. It's a guess and kind of, sort of. Do you want to elaborate on statistics? Because, you follow them as closely as I do. What are your opinions of statistics and lies, and how close are they to each other?
Well, here's how I view it. This is how they get the unemployment numbers lower than they really should be. They filter out unemployed people from the workforce. Yeah. They say that, well, okay, this person's been out of work for so long. This person is no longer unemployed. They find ways of filtering out unemployed people. This person always worked his own job. He created his own job. He's not working. We'll filter that person out. They keep the numbers low by filtering out people who are actually unemployed. So that's how they present things in such a very dishonest way. That's how they go about doing it. And it works for a while until there's too many people who are unemployed that it becomes noticeable that the numbers are giving you are pretty ridiculous, which is why you're starting to hear more about the U6 number in the media than the U3 number, because you get to a point where you're saying, well, 90% of the people are working. At this point, it just sounds ridiculous. So I think a lot of the people in the mainstream media are sort of giving up on that ridiculous number. Those are some of the phenomena I see there. I was just thinking about the 401k. I had some questions about that. People talk about the market improving. First, if you can't get all your money out today, then how much money do you really have in there? I mean, because it sort of reminds me of a Ponzi system where they don't want you to bring out all your money all at once. If you get hit with all these big fees and fines, then how much money do you really have in there? How much money do you really have access to?
Well, Reginald, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it looks good on paper. You know, when you get that statement and you open it up and, you know, you're almost recovered from the losses you took in 2008. Not quite, but you're getting there. You know, it feels good. But try to take the money out. I did it. I did it before the crash in 2008. And I took out as much as I could, which was 50%. I was 100% vested in it. If I quit my job, I'd get a check for that amount, and I either rolled it over. If I didn't roll it over right away, I was going to pay a massive tax on it, which I did anyway on the 50% that I could take out. You don't own that money. I mean, that money is in the hands of Wall Street. Period. Plain and simple. It's in some kind of fund. And even though it looks like it's your money, it isn't your money. If you try to take it out, you know, it's like kind of like winning the lottery, Reginald. You know, you're going to take the cash out option, and it's $100 million, but they're going to keep $50 million of it and hand you a check for the other, the balance of it. Although
I always wondered about that. I mean, how can you have a lottery system and then say, oh, we're going to tax you? I mean, how big of a scam is that? Somebody said Michigan. Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
But it sounds kind of ridiculous to me.
Well,
I had another question, too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's our entire system is based on Vegas. I'd rather go to Vegas. I mean, you know, I used to go down there and play poker. I used to play some pretty high-stakes poker at the Wynn. And some of the other places down there. It's not important, but it was fun. I had a good time. It was very challenging. I could read people. I could, you know, there was a lot of money at stake, and it was fun. I got enjoyment out of that. So if I went down there and lost some money, at least I had the enjoyment of it. We have the same thing going on, but the game is completely rigged. It's not like playing poker where I stand a chance of winning because I can read Reginald. It's more like playing the craps. You know, where it's rigged, the house is going to win. It's a guarantee, and that's why we have the statistic of people who invest into Wall Street and lose is upwards of 80 or 90%. You know, Dex will be on tomorrow. I'll hit him up on that. I think it's 90% of the people who dabble into the stock market end up losing money. So we have the same system, you know, except this official financial system that we have is far, far more aggressive and far, far more predatory, in my opinion anyway, than what happens in Atlantic City or in Las Vegas. What was your other question, Reggie? Sorry.
Well, about the 401ks, you said something really interesting. You said that when you look at your account, it looks like it's almost towards 2008 levels or so. And I wonder how many people think about this. How much is that money really worth? What is the real value of that money, and what is the real purchasing power of that money? Let's say the numbers come somewhere around a 2007 rate. Didn't gold have a really big year? Oh, go ahead.
That's a brilliant point. That's an absolutely brilliant point, Reginald, because since 2008, since September of 2008 when the market started to tank, and March of 2009 when it bottomed out for the first time at 6,000 whatever, how many dollars have been created since then? Because I don't even know. I know it's in the trillions and trillions of dollars, and I also know Ben Bernanke said he was never going to monetize the debt. And now we're doing that to the tune of another $600 billion that's announced. So, yeah, is the purchasing power 50% of what it was in 2000? In real terms, I mean, I can't even fire up my computer without finding a half a dozen stories on nations rioting over the price of food, and analysts predicting that that's going to be one of the hardest things of 2011 is the ever rising prices of food and commodities. You know, so yeah, you're right. Is that even if it's not quite at where it was, but even if it's exactly where it was in 2008, you know, what is the purchasing power? If I was going to guess, I would say you'd be lucky to be at 60% of what you were in 2008.
Yeah, because you have to look at gold, which I don't think gold ever really goes up unless there's a shortage. But I think for the most part, we're looking at lowering of the value of the dollar. So when we look at the price of gold going up in 2010 and a significant rise in 2009 and a significant rise in 2008, when you actually price these dollars in gold and silver, you'll notice that they've lost their value significantly. So even if you were to get up to that same amount, you've still lost a significant amount of actual purchasing power. So, and you had a situation where it costs a lot more dollars. It requires more dollars to get the food that you were able to buy back then. So essentially, the numbers look good, but in reality, you're not able to buy as much. So that's just something I wanted to sort of highlight.
No, you're exactly right. It's like looking at the stock market in the year 2000, 2001. We're back at those levels. So if you're fully invested in the stock market, you're being bombarded with media propaganda that, hey, we're back from the 2009 lows to the near 2008 highs of 2008. Well, whoop-de-doo, you were back. Even they could be honest and say, hey, you're right where you were a decade ago. Congratulations. Even though the country's loaded now. A decade ago, the official national debt was around $8 trillion, and now we just crossed the $14 trillion threshold, and we're really, really close to having Congress capitulate and raise the credit card limit once again. So we're in far worse shape. I don't know how you could even argue that we're back or even close to being back. But that's a good point. The dollars that are in your 401k or in your IRA, they're worth less than they were by a great deal in 2008. So, Reginald, tell me what's going on over at Demcad. The last, not today's video you put out, I believe you put it out yesterday. You're being called in the chat room the guru, either guru or Buddha of prep. Which I thought was funny. But I haven't seen you do a video for a while on prep, and the one you put out yesterday was very, very good. You gave was it 4 points you wanted to cover, and it was it was as usual a good video. I just haven't seen you do one on prep in a while. Is there something on your mind that leads you to believe that time is drawing near to take advantage of the preparation that you've done?
Well, I always try to do that every few months because there's always new people coming on to the channel. So I want to warn people every few months so that the new people understand why I'm actually doing this. And I've been looking at the municipal bond market, and that's a situation where there's been a big decrease. And the type of decrease we saw in 2008, not quite the same, but it looks like the beginning of a huge decrease. I think it went from 107 to around 97 right now, and that's very significant because you don't see that type of dip. You don't see the type of volume that we've seen in the last 3 months in that market. And for people who don't really understand the markets, the municipal markets that well, this is my understanding. It's basically a system where, let's say you had a $10,000 bond or a $1,000 bond, whatever, and you would put up the $10,000. It's tax-free, and you would collect the interest for the period that bond lasts. Let's say a year. You would collect the interest, and once that year was over with, you would get your original principal, that $10,000 or that $1,000. That's pretty much how it works. And then the money is sort of used to sort of build a lot of local projects, a lot of infrastructure for these local governments. By municipal, I'm talking about county and city governments. Well, you've all been reading the headlines about the city governments and where they're going right now. So a lot of people are going to lose confidence in their ability to pay back that money. So this is one of the reasons why I sort of think that the municipal bond market may be one of the things that sort of leads us to the next downturn. So I thought it'd be a pretty good thing to sort of warn people that if you can, it's a good time to store up some food. Store up some water. You don't have to be rich. Find a means of protecting that. I don't care if it's a gun or a bow and arrow or nunchucks or whatever. Whatever it takes, a sword. I prefer guns because I think it's more effective. But anyway, and you want to also acquire the tools and medicines to support you while you're trying to do this. So I would highly recommend that people consider taking some type of measures to protect themselves and their families. Somebody said, I need more water. Well, I agree, but I'm doing the best I can. And you may have a limited budget, but it's a lot better than doing nothing. And you can't assume that there's not going to be any type of emergency. You have to be prepared in case the basic systems break down, and they're not actually able to provide you with basic services. You may have to be your own police.
Hey, you know what, Reginald, that's coming. I have the latest article from theeconomiccollapse.com up as a commentary piece on my website, and some of the things they're talking about in here, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Sacramento have installed rolling brownouts during which various city fire stations are shut down on a rotating basis. On and on these stories. You know, in Georgia, the county of Clayton recently eliminated entire public bus system in order to save $8 million. These are this is the news that isn't being reported. This is the news that Reggie, I watch and listen to mainstream media constantly, mainly because I come on here and rail against them, and I don't want to come on here and say, you know, they're not covering the stories of austerity happening around the country, and they just absolutely don't. And so the message of PrEP, you know, is so important in the alternative sphere because, you know, like the lady that one of the listeners ran into who thinks everything's fine because the Dow Jones at 11,700 or whatever, they're going to be hit it's like going to be hit in the head with a baseball bat. They're not going to understand it when you can find stories of rolling brownouts. You know, how much longer is it before these are not voluntary rolling brownouts, these are involuntary blackouts? Or how much time is going to go past when before austerity takes hold full-fledged in this country, 44 million people on food stamps, millions and millions and millions and millions of people on emergency unemployment benefits that are about to run out, before there is civil unrest to the point where day-to-day basic services become threatened. Reginald, I can't help but think we're going to start to taste that in 2011.
Well, I always thought the psychological impact, the shock, was going to be the one thing that was going to cause a lot of trouble for people. Because I often say that it's not just a crisis that creates a problem; it's people's response to the crisis.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you're not mentally prepared, and I will say, Reginald, I don't know if you know, we've been in 2011. I've decided to do at least 2 prep shows on Wide Awake Radio a month. Last week we had Miss C. Gypsy, sorry. She came on and talked prep. This Friday we're going to have a Blue Cat. She's going to talk urban prep, and she lives in Chicago. Because I think that there, you know, like you said, there's going to be no hiding it. You know, more people are hearing the news that things are getting better, and they're just shaking their heads like, you know, who's the minister of propaganda, because he's doing a horrible job. All right,
well, I mean, you know, there's still a lot of gullible people out there. I mean, Obama's approval ratings are soaring, so I mean, maybe there's hope for him being reelected after all. But I don't think 2012 is even relevant anymore. I'm not even sure the presidency is even relevant if they're just going to replace one guy with somebody who's going to implement pretty much the same policy. So it's obviously working on some people, so.
Yeah, and it's proven that that's exactly what we're going to get, regardless, one way or the other. You know, we have. I posted a video. It should be up here any minute. But I spoke to Jamie Dimon. He came out on Friday. And this article just for some reason it struck me the wrong way. He's complaining about the Dodd-Frank bill. This is how diverse and this is how immersed the nation is in propaganda. Jamie Dimon, the head of J.P. Morgan, is coming out saying that the Dodd-Frank bill, he's talking about how tough it is on the financial services industry. And this is a bill that is of, by, and for special interests. I mean, they wrote the thing. And, he's talking that the government's just too tough on them. So it's putting out propaganda right there that the Dodd-Frank bill is working for the American people. And in fact, I would love to see anything in there that really slaps the hand of these criminals. In my opinion, they're criminals who got us into the position we're in. It doesn't. If the Dodd-Frank bill would have came out and said, okay, all right, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, all you AIG, General Motors, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we thought this was the right thing to do, but in retrospect, we've decided to let free market capitalism do what it's supposed to do, which is if you're a cheat and a criminal and you keep 52 sets of books and you don't count your assets to be what they're worth, and you implode the nation's economy, not only this nation's, but nations around the world, and you throw millions and billions of people into economic hardship, and you cost lives because of that economic hardship, then we decided that bailing you out and erasing your sin and shifting it onto the back of our citizens was a bad idea. So we're going to claw back every cent that we gave you. We're going to revoke your corporate charter, and we're going to give it to somebody who has a sense of free market capitalism. If the Dodd-Frank bill would have said anything in the realm of that, then I would be on here right now nominating these guys for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But that for 1 second to think that this legislation, written by the same people who never saw this coming or did see it coming and decided to sweep it under the rug and then have a panic fest in 2008 to get the American people to come on board and pay for it. These are the people who wrote it. So when Jamie Dimon comes out complaining that instead of 44 cents a transaction on credit card transactions, they'll only be able to make 12 cents, and how this is going to hurt, this is going to trickle down. This is when things trickle down, Reginald. When it trickles down to hurt the small guy, when it hurts the small consumer out there, Jamie Dimon is basically saying, what I take from this article is, J.P. Morgan's not going to get hurt. We're going to pass the pain down the line. On the top end, our failure, we've already passed it along. But now, with the Dodd-Frank bill, we have a legal legislation that lets us pass our losses directly onto the consumer. Kind of a rant there. Sorry about that, Reginald.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's very difficult to become a senator and a lot of times even a representative without having this corporate money, this Wall Street money. So they pretty much have that locked down. I mean, look at these presidents and the people they nominate, especially the current one. These are mostly Wall Street people all over the place, and it's the same type of Wall Street people. Everyone from the Treasury Secretary on, to economic advisors. It's pretty much run by Wall Street. So, yeah, don't expect this current regime or really anyone in Washington to really challenge them. Although it will be interesting to see what Ron Paul does with this new position he's going to be having. He's going to be leading a subcommittee that supposedly oversees the Federal Reserve. But
yeah,
we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, exactly. That that is a very good test coming up here really soon to see if they neuter him. My anticipation is that they absolutely will neuter him. There's a chance that he might even be yanked from chairing that commission. All right, I got another caller, and we got about 5 minutes left. So let me go to Ken in Seattle. Ken, are you there?
Yes, I am, Charlie.
Thank you very much for the call. How can I help you, or how can I?
Yes, Reg, I was utterly amazed in 2008 when the bankers got the bailout and they just literally robbed the country of trillions of dollars, that they did not put up another 9/11 big event smokescreen. So my question to you is, before this next big collapse, I'm figuring that they're going to have to go another big event. What do you think will be the signs or the indicators that the whole market's going to collapse, and which in turn, I believe they're going to go a new super 9/11 big event. So what do we look for as far as the markets or whatever? Because I don't believe in incrementalism. This will not go on just drip, drip, drip. At one point, one day, it's like Argentina. So what do you think of that, and what do you think the indicators will be? Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you very much for the call. Reginald, I think he was directing that to you, so go ahead, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
Indicators of when the whole system is going to fall apart. Well, like I said about the municipal situation, something's going to have to be done there. I mean, they're going to have to shut down food stamp programs at the state level. This is going to come after the city government starts to lay off even more people, and that has a ripple effect, because when you shut down buses, then how do these people get to their jobs? So you sort of have a ripple effect there. So I think you're going to have a situation, once it hits the state, then there's going to have to be a decision one way or another. That's going to be a really big situation. Yeah,
I agree, Reginald. I see a muni bond crisis leading the way into austerity. Looking at that call, looking at the question, we had a 9/11 in 2001. That was a major event, right? Obviously, no matter where you feel about it, if it was inside job, irrelevant. It was a major event. I look at 2008 in retrospect as a 9/11. It was, in my opinion, it was a financial terrorist attack. I don't think that we needed a 9/11 to have a 2008. I think 2008 was yet another assault, a vicious assault on the financial system of the world. Now, I think they also knew it was going to take time after that for the pain to really be felt. So in that way, it was worse than 9/11 because, 9/11 happened. We had pain and suffering and sorrow and mourning for an extended period of time. We ended up spending trillions of dollars fighting all around the world for some cause that was proven to be a lie. And we're still there. Nation's longest military engagement in the history of the United States of America is Afghanistan, and we are still there 100+ thousand strong. I think 2008 was tantamount to a financial terrorist attack on this country and didn't need another attack to prompt it. So, to answer your question, the next event, I think, will be continuation of 2008. The next event will be austerity. And the realization that all these crimes that we didn't commit, the American people didn't commit, the people of the free world didn't commit, when the realization hits them that they've been stuck with the tab, that's when the pain and suffering of that attack is going to be realized. But, I don't know. And could the end result of that be some other kind of false flag, some kind of generating nationalism to the point where we have some kind of fascist nationalist party that decides that we need to go to war with somebody in order to create economic prosperity? Who knows? That definitely could be. Why not? That's happened in history before, so why wouldn't it repeat itself? Reginald, give me, how do I get a hold of you? How do I view your videos? How do I get in touch with Demcad?
Well, you can find me on youtube.com/Demcad, D-E-M-C-A-D. You can find me there. I also have other things as well, but if you go to the main page, it'll give you all my links. And I talk about politics, I talk about prepping, I talk about the economy. And at this point, it sort of looks like there's going to be a bond, it's going to be a municipal, local government crisis. They're going to need some more money, so they're going to bring the states down with them. The states are already having their problems. And the federal government will probably jump in, and there'll maybe be a bailout, which may lead to a dollar crisis.
All right, I got something I can... I'm going to make a counter prediction. I think you're all right, except to I agree with you 100% up until the government, the Fed bailing them out. I think austerity is going to take hold, and we're going to be told it's for our own medicine. Reginald, Demcad on YouTube, thank you very much. I always appreciate you coming on. It's always a great show. You do a fantastic job over there. Please keep it up. Everybody stay tuned. Jeff Rintz is coming up next. Tomorrow night, I misspoke. It's not going to be Dex. It's going to be Christopher Green. Dex on Thursday. Blue Cat on Friday. We'll see you tomorrow night.